Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord God, we thank you as much for this glorious day. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the crowd you brought to our meeting, dear God. I pray that you would lead us and guide us in this meeting, dear Heavenly Father. We want to thank you for your Son who gave his life on Calvary's cross for our sins. Dear God, please be with us, and we'll give you all the praise and the glory. These things I pray in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did you have a copy of the minutes?
What's your motion?
Brent and I printed them off and I didn't put them in this. Okay.
Get a copy of the agenda.
The most recent.
Yeah, looks like it. So.
We will have to suspend the minutes.
Okay.
And move on. I didn't even bring the.
What have you done today, Mike?
30,223,647.9.
Okay.
220,233,647.95.
This is the claims there.
Okay. We need to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I so move.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Okay, now, we don't have the sign it.
Okay,
You forgot them.
well, we can take care of that later.
Okay, on the money part, we've got 30,223,647.95. Need to approve that.
So move.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. And I did see affirm the clerks and treasurers report, so
We're good with those.
good with them. Any department reports?
Got several here.
Hello,
Hi there.
Michael Stevenson, Gibson County Park Board. I want to let you guys know that we took applications or resumes for part-time help. We only received one. But that one was one that was recommended to us by several. We would like to bring this forward to get your blessing to have him hired. His name is Ray Ellis, and he actually lives just southeast of the
Yeah.
park. He is going to be retiring in early spring. He said that he would like to come on and work with us. So I'd like to have your blessing, Park.
I'll make that motion to accept Ray Ellis.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Got it.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that we got someone in a timely manner, you know, I mean, that's especially right here before spring and all.
Yes, absolutely.
Sheriff, how are you?
All right, so, not really much of a report. We've got 5 openings in corrections right now. We're a lot of 21 positions. Dispatch, we're a lot of 9 positions, and we have 5 positions open. Mind you, dispatch is 24/7, 365. I have 4 people covering that. Community corrections, we have a field officer position open and a facility position open. We also have we had testing for 2 deputies, spots that are open. And we had 1 guy make it through, and we're starting his background. And we hope to take him to the merit board in January to get him hired. So we are still taking positions, applications for deputy. And yesterday we had 2 newest deputies go to the academy for their physical assessment. And Chad Craney tested or placed first out of 200 in the 1.5 mile run. So, may not be smart, but he sure can run. This guy, Chad is an awesome guy, and I'll give him a hard time.
Sure.
But we're really proud of him. And I think that's all the openings. So what I have for you guys is I have a couple contracts here and maybe a third one on the way today. One's for the hospital. It's an agreement between us and the hospital. Just basically saying that whenever we have inmates, we can take them there. So, I'll give you guys this. I need you to sign, look it over and sign it.
Ready?
That's the same as last year's.
Yes. And then the other one I have is an agreement between Dr. Emerson and the commissioners like we did last year. And that's for the annual salary of $33,106, which has been budgeted for, or 26 equal payments of $1,276.15. I just need you guys to look these over and if you approve them, sign them.
Need to sign all three of these?
Yeah. But we do it in triplicate.
That'll cost you.
One for them, one for us, and I guess one to make paper airplanes with. No blood sugar. I can't remember if Mike signs and the president signs.
Yeah, Mike has to sign them too.
Like there's a place for you to sign here and then,
I don't want to sign prematurely on the,
sure. Then there's a place for Mike. So I'll send these down to Mike next.
Oh, you don't sign it?
I don't believe so. I'm not seeing another spot for commissioners, so I'll take it there. We're good. Yes, sir. Mhm.
Jason, should we vote on these?
Yes. Yeah, they go ahead and vote on both of them, Dr. Emerson's contract. And
Do
the contract, I'd ask for a motion to approve Dr. Emerson's contract and the contract for Gibson General Hospital or Deaconess.
So move.
Second?
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? You guys have it.
You have to sign these too, buddy.
Sheriff, I don't know your timeline for this evening, but we are gonna discuss some ARPA approvals and maybe.
See what goes on.
Okay, and just wanted you to know that I attended that meeting and did my due diligence to try to get you some of the materials and supplies that you needed, and hopefully we'll have some good news for you tonight. I don't want to spoil it, but
I'm looking forward to, we'll do the big Oprah reveal.
that'd be great. And we're hoping to maybe work tonight to share some of that with you and point out some things we'd like to work on too, that we didn't get accomplished, so. I think you'll be pretty happy with the outcome, so.
On slow poke.
Are you just waiting on me for these? Go on with the meeting. Go on, you know.
All
I'll stand down here.
All right, so next we're gonna, is there any more reports from departments? And Debbie, I think you're up next.
Okay, good evening, Debbie Bennett Steersman. I'm working with
Evening.
you on the ARPA funds that you're dispersing. And I'm here for two reasons. Tonight, I kind of want to bring you up to date on where projects stand and the new requirements. And then I want to go through some of the projects and recommendations from the last ARPA meeting we held this last week.
stick together.
I know.
Thank you, Debbie.
Okay. Need one, Mike.
Hmm.
You just need one. Don't say come to church, you're giving me.
Thank you, Dave.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, the first spreadsheet that I gave you is just the status of where projects that you have already obligated and are started, where they stand. I don't have to review everyone with you. It's pretty self-explanatory. It has the project name, the amount of money that was obligated, then balance left, where the project stands. And that where you see the red column, balance to transfer, those are projects that have been completed and there's leftover funds. And we'll discuss that when we go through the core group projects and recommendations. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is next year, of course, is the last year of the ARPA funds obligation, 2024. So the projects you have obligated and anything you decide to do, in order for it to move forward at the end of the 3 years, it must be under contract, signed purchase order, or signed proposal before the end of 2024 in order for you to spend it in 2025 and 26. If you spend on something in those years that hasn't been contracted, then you'll have to pay feds back those funds. So I think we got a pretty good, guide of what's going on. I think everything so far looks like it's, going to be completed at that time. I will be contacting the departments that are listed that aren't complete to make sure we're all on board with getting things under contracts by the end of the year. You will have to obligate any soft costs by April that you anticipate in 2024 and 25. Administration, lawyers, audit fees. We'll have to itemize them on your report in April in order to be able to spend them in 24 and 25. So I've talked to Mike today. We're going to start trying to work on some of those numbers so we can make sure that we've got those in there so you can spend them. Any questions on any of the projects? Okay. And I have 2 more sheets, of course. You want to take one of each? Yep. Faster than you doing it. Numbered 1 and 2. If you look at the sheet number 1, this was the sheet that I presented to the ARPA board the other night at our meeting. These are projects that at the bottom have either been tabled or they were new projects brought before the core group. And as you can see, the tabled and the new ones total $2,919,863.96. And the balance you have in funding is $1,097,053.55. So there was a lot of discussion about all of these projects. If you look at the second sheet, which is the one I'm going to talk about this evening that has the 2, at the very bottom, you will see the ones that the core group recommended and wanted me to bring before the commissioners. Any of the projects that you don't see at the bottom that were on the other sheet are tabled for further discussion at the next ARPA meetings. I just didn't confuse them by putting them on this sheet. They were discussed, but they were tabled. So the first project that the core group would like to recommend to the commissioners is to give the Gibson County surveyor $43,191.20 for updating of the county elevations.
Debbie, I'd like to see us table that until we have a few more questions answered
Okay.
about what it involves and look at maybe some other avenues for that funding too.
You want to make that in form of a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second on the floor. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
So the next project was to do the sidewalk improvement around the courthouse. We had quite the discussion about that and have been having it because the county felt that NDOT was going to do some work on it. And now they're not going to. So the quote we had was $180,000, and that was a year old. And the core group added cost of living, I guess, into that and figured $200,000 would cover that. They recommended $100,000 come from ARPA. And then you have a fund, LATCF, that's very much like what ARP was. It's called the Local and Tribal Community Fund. And it was just like a gift. They were giving them to the entitlements, and then based upon counties, they would base how much you get. It's to be spent just like ARP. They wanted to use the $100,000 to make the $200,000 for the county sidewalk improvement. So that's the next project.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I second that motion.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it.
Okay, the next project is the Gibson County Health Department. We've had a lot of discussion about this, and Julie Shade and I have as well. We gave the health department money to look at a plan on where the health department could relocate. The first plan that she gave me was well over $1 million. It was to locate in a new location, purchase quite a bit of land and build a new building. And the core group thought, well, maybe we need to step back and look at that again. So I contacted her, and she started looking for properties that were for sale. She found a property that is for sale, which is one of the buildings that ARC has, where the daycare center used to be, and got a tentative price on what they're wanting. And so the core group talked about that and talked about what it would take to remodel it. And they recommended $850,000 to the health department for purchase and renovation of a new building.
And if we were to do that, that would essentially deplete our ARPA funds for all these other projects. I don't want to rule anything out this moment, but I would make a motion that we table that matter until we can look at some of our other buildings, and we have a few other sites that we're looking at. So I'd make that motion that we table that so we can further review some optional sites and looking at this a little more.
I second that.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it.
The next, the next project that's listed is the Gibson County Council on Aging. Originally, the Council on Aging asked approximately $50,000 for a new passenger van for transportation. The core group asked that we go back and ask for maybe a more firm or better quote. And they came back with $12,389 for a used, I think, 2004 van. And the core group recommended giving them $5,000 towards that $12,389.
Debbie, that van's been sold.
Oh,
Rhonda.
oh, no,
Yeah.
sorry, so it's all.
That van's been sold, but we still like the money because we will hold it, and I will keep pursuing something.
For a van.
For a van.
Okay.
I mean, I'd like to have more if they can more, but I'd take whatever I can get.
And I think in this matter too, I've been working with Rhonda a little bit on this, sort of trying to give her some ideas for vehicles and just trying to work with her a little bit. I think we may have some options out there, or maybe even some better options, I hope. So we've been looking at available vehicles and different fleets and what's out there in the market. I'd like to be able to find a senior something that has some low mileage and that also meets their capacity needs. They're looking for something along, if any of you have any leads on any good vehicles, 16 passenger plus.
I can't go over 15.
Oh, correction.
Yeah, it has to be 12 or 15 because
12 or-
I don't want my drivers to have to do CDL. So,
Okay,
but 15 would be ideal.
15.
And that really won't take the place of my medical vehicles. That's the reason it's completely separate. We did, and can I talk for a second? Okay, we did, I'm pretty lengthy, honey.
Just so it cools down.
Okay, we need a fan. Okay, we did a couple of field trips this year, one to Lyle Station, one to the Toyota Event Center for my seniors, because they like to do field trips. I have a whole list of stuff from medical facilities, occupational therapy that shows the benefits of them doing field trips. And I had to take 3 of my medical vans, plus I drove to take 18 people to the Toyota. That's why I need a bigger vehicle, a bigger transport vehicle that I can use to do field trips for my seniors. I look around this room, and let me tell you, the senior citizens of this county are the backbone of this county. They are what made this county, if you look back far enough. And most of you all in here, with a few exceptions, are senior citizens. So I think they should give everything under the sun that they can give. So, thank you.
Okay.
I can talk about my other one too, if you want me to.
Rhonda,
For now.
Rhonda, I think you'll find that Commissioner Montgomery and I both agree with you.
Thank you.
And we have been extra supportive with providing a new parking lot for the senior center.
Oh, I'm blessed. We've been blessed. The parking lot, the doors. Debbie was really instrumental in getting my electric doors, and they were a blessing.
We stand by our support for the seniors, and I'll make a motion that we approve what we have in place for them. And also offer my personal help if you need any assistance in finding a vehicle. So,
I'm second that motion.
all in favor?
There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next request.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you for what you do for our senior citizens, and we appreciate that.
Okay.
The next was from the Gibson County Council on Aging, and the request was for $10,000 to get a new yard barn for their food pantry and pet supplies in the yard barn. And the core group recommended $10,000.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second on the floor. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
The next item that the core group decided to move forward was a new bush hog mower for Hopkins Park, County Park. The original request was $49,495. That was for both the mower and bush hog, right? Tractor, I mean, yes. The core group made the request of $30,000, and I have talked with, just my 2 cents worth. I have talked with the Parks Board, and they very much appreciate what you're giving, and we'll try to work with it, but they really don't have the budget to come up with the balance of the funding.
Mhm.
That's your pleasure, what you want to do.
Well, I think if you're gonna approve anything more than the 30,000, we take that back to the ARPA committee. Or bringing it, you don't need that until next mowing season, or you need it before then.
Fair talk officially. Michael Stevenson, Park Board. The bush hog, we will not, but the tractor, we could. It's come with a loader, there's things that we need to be doing. But we will work with whatever you guys want to do. The tractor and loader just. Got it right here. The tractor loader was 44,000, I think, and then the bush hog itself was just 4,000 to 5,000. Yeah, $44,320 with a cab, and the reason for the cab is because we have to mow pollinator, that stuff that's in there, and apparently it kicks up a whole lot of pollen and stuff when we do that. That's through a DNR thing. And the mower itself, the bush hog, was $5,175. So that was what the cost was. That's the 49,000. We'll work with whatever you say. If that means next month, that's fine. If that means whatever, we'll work with it.
But I would recommend tabling it and
I do too.
considering that. Is there a motion to table that item?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have it.
Okay, the next request was from the Gibson County Sheriff's Department. The original request was $27,448.80, and that was for purchase of 30 Glock weapons. Oh, how many was that? I don't remember. 30, okay.
With red dot laser sights.
And the core group recommended paying half of that are the amount of $13,750.
Any discussion? If not a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The last was to put away soft costs for administration for 2024 and 2025 in the amount of $60,000.
Discussion, if not a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Guys have it.
Okay, and did want to tell you, if you look back at sheet number 3, first when I gave you the projects and the progress of the project. The total, so you had 1,097,053.55 left in unobligated funds. And I need to ask you to make a motion to transfer $99,392.05. And that is from projects that are complete, balances in their funds. We can move that back to the general kitty of 8951 to be able to use on other projects.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Guys have it.
That is it. Thank you, Jamie.
Debbie?
Sheriff Van Oven, I wanted to address something, the K9 project
Yes,
that
sir.
you had brought to our attention. I'm very supportive of that. I think it would be a very good project. There was some questions about that, so I'm hoping that we can follow up at our next ARPA meeting and have you come in and maybe answer a few of those questions, but I would like to see that come up again in our next ARPA meeting, because I think that would be an asset for our sheriff's department.
Absolutely. I do have another contract that I just got. This is between the ambulance service and the Gibson County Sheriff's Office. Basically agreeing like we did last year for them to transport inmates to the hospital if we needed. And there is a rate of $500 for the year. There's 4 copies there.
Ron, I did want to tell you that you should contact Stephanie McKinney.
I did already.
I forgot to tell you that.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Debbie. Merry Christmas.
It's George's turn. Come on, George.
Yeah, just a brief update on the construction, you've been by the Brownfield, North Main. A lot of change there, and it's going to continue to change. I think, they projected trying to get everything underneath the roof, by December 31st. I don't think they're gonna be able to make that, but it's gonna be close, okay? We're waiting on windows, for the office building to get delivered. We're kind of got a little slow part about that, but hopefully that's gonna be the next week or two. To get those in, then they can actually do some heat in that building and start doing some drywall. Get some progress moving on it. We've had a lot of meetings on furniture and kitchen equipment and laundry equipment. We've had several discussions on video arraignment that we're working with the courthouse and the courts with, the prosecutor's office. So we've had a lot of meetings, and I'm sure that's going to continue into the next year. It is moving along. So. We're lucky. We've had a lot of really no rain. In the days it's rained, it's usually on the weekend when everybody wants to do something. But for building, that's kind of a plus for us. So let's move on. Anybody got any questions?
I know every time you go by, there's something new or an improvement to it, so.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
They're doing a lot right now. Yeah. They got quite a few people working there. They're probably got about anywhere from 12 to 15 every day now. Yeah. Moving on good. All right.
Appreciate it, George.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got a lot of iron going up over there, and at pretty substantial rate, it seems like.
Yeah, it is. I've had a lot of people about how are you gonna get the jail pods, jail cells into the new building since they've got the steel and everything up? And they actually have a system that they do on that. They'll pour a concrete pad on the north side of the building near Brumfield Avenue. And then they'll bring in 2 cells at a time on a flatbed. They'll have a crane sit there and they'll actually lift them up. They put them on rollers and actually roll them into the building. And that's pretty standard construction, anywhere that has this same type of pod type construction. That's how they do it, actually roll them in and mount them down. So I've had people ask, how are you gonna get them in there?
Sure. Sure.
And they were able to get the crane back out, because I had a couple people ask me how they gonna get the crane outside, but they did. They had a just enough room to get it out. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. All right, establish a precinct for recent annexations.
Evening, Sherry Smith, Gibson County Clerk. Earlier this year, you had approved precinct annexations from the city of Princeton and Oakland City. Upon your approval, we submitted State Form 13332 precinct summary statements for each of those precincts to the Indiana Election Commission. As we move through this process, I'm here tonight at the request of the Indiana Election Division, which is now asking of the Gibson County Board of Commissioners a proposed precinct establishment order. This order will comply with IC 3-11-1.5, which talks about the altering of the boundary line dividing 2 or more precincts. The precincts affected are Patoka 3 and 11 in Princeton and Columbia 1 and 5 in Oakland City. Upon your approval and signatures on the order establishing precincts, we will forward this to the state, and a notice will be published in both newspapers for public comment. And then that public comment will be directed to the Indiana Election Commission. And it'll be 10 days where they have to comment on any of these changes.
Okay.
And so I'm here tonight to ask if you will approve the order. And I have a copy of it that you can sign if you do approve it.
You guys received a copy of that proposed order a few weeks back as well, so.
And to be clear, for anyone attending who might have an interest in this, we're talking about the location of the Second Avenue area
Yes.
and the new apartments coming in there. That area was annexed a few years back by the city of Princeton. And it's my understanding there were no formal objections, or as far as that goes, informal objections to that.
And both of the annexations were approved by the city councils in Princeton and Oakland City.
So now we're at the point to where we're trying to give those folks that live out there a voice in the election
Right.
and make sure they're at the proper polls or precincts come election time. And this is a formality of putting that all together.
And the Princeton one, maybe the Oakland City one, I'm not sure, but the Princeton one for sure was what we call a voluntary annexation, meaning property owners signed up for it. They requested it of the city.
And we've had several people in the leased housing have actually signed or changed their voter registration if they're in Licking County. They change it to that area. So it is pretty active. And voter registration opened back up on December 1st. So we're accepting new applications again. Right now, we have about 215 yet to put in. It's a pretty good number of new applications. And they were held from like October 1st to December 1st. So that's why we have such a large number right now.
Well, I'm gonna make the motion, we approve this and just go ahead with it to the state.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Opposed? You guys have it.
thank you, Sherry.
So thank you. I'll leave this with you where that red tab is. If you'll sign that, just give it to Mike.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
And Sherry, while we have you here, not to put you on the spot, but your office area up there is looking rather remarkable.
Oh,
A new floor and
so we were a recipient of ARPA money. Thank you very much again. We have gone into the main clerk office and a smaller office located on the north side of that main clerk office, and we have put in new LVP flooring. And I must admit, it was really nice. We had like an indoor-outdoor carpeting that had probably been down for 40 years. So we were glad to have that removed and used a local company. We bought the vinyl flooring locally. We used a local company to install it, and they did it in 3 days and did a fantastic job. Looks really good. So the next step, we have Mr. May down in Hopstad who's making woodwork for us. And we will close up the counter, and then we will cut off the other end so that we are compliant with ADA width on that counter. And we will eventually, I'm hoping in 2 or 3 months, we will open the clerk's office back up so that the public can come in to the clerk's office and conduct their business, and they don't have to stand out in public. So anyway, it's looking really good, really good. So thank you for that.
yeah, thank you. And we appreciate you using Gibson County workers.
Yes.
And also keeping the integrity of the courthouse in place. I mean, it matches up with so much of the existing trim. And I just think it's it's kind of a broad initiative here. We're trying to restore and maintain our courthouse and the historic value of it. And I appreciate your help on that. I really do.
It looks good. It looks good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, Emily, I'm sorry I bypassed you on the agenda, but we'll let you go now.
Just real quick, I just wanted to kind of give an update on the well. So first off, we are moving to the hub. I did make that announcement, so the support of, yes, our funding and all that, we're able to get into the hub. So we'll be doing that in January. We'll start holding our classes there at the hub starting January 9th. Also, we changed the program to a full year program. So our moms that are with us here, that started with us in the fall, will be with us in the fall. That's just due to the feedback that we've got from our mothers. They really are loving the program, really enjoying what they're receiving out of it, and they really just want to continue. So we're changing it for basically August to May. We'll have the same group of ladies with us for the school year, basically. Also, just an update on our first cohort. So the first cohort that we ever had are just doing wonderful. They're actively involved in the community. I was out the other day and I was watching them working. I ran into them. It was just crazy. I ran into all of them that day. And so it was just really neat to see them being plugged in and actively, holding a job down. Also, we were able to meet with another mom during a Christmas function that we had with our first cohort. She's finishing up her degree in nursing. She currently this summer will finish her prerequisites, and then we'll go into her 2-year program to get a nursing degree. And she's doing really well. I'm really just proud of her. I'm excited to see what's next for her. I was able to meet with her last week actually, and she just kind of gave me an update on what she's doing. Second thing, basically. We are the current moms that are in our program. We've gotten one mom in particular, the very first place. She was able to get her own apartment using the resources that we gave her in class. She was able to get with the FSSA office and get plugged in with housing. She's also currently using the partnership that we have with One, and it's going to be getting enrolled in a program. So she's working on all those things. And they're just doing amazing, and just being able to watch them continue to grow and to continue to use the resources in our community. Another thing that we're looking at too, January 22nd, I'll be meeting with Safe Haven out there in Mount Carmel, Illinois. They're a women's shelter, and they currently house a number of Gibson County mothers. So we will hopefully be partnering with them in hopes that we can figure out how to go about getting those moms into our program. Hopefully by fall of next year. So that's what we're working on, that's what we're doing. The ladies are, like I said, we didn't even think a semester was, they were gonna stick with us, but now they want to stay the school year, so. Which is a good thing. I'm excited about it and I'm thankful that they're growing. I've just been pretty amazed at the diligence that they have in class, the rapport that they're making with the community and how they're just growing and moving. So it's just been wonderful to watch.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, you're doing some exceptional work out there. And for anyone who may not know about this program, let's say you have a neighbor, a struggling mother who needs a little help. Is there an age requirement?
18.
18 and older,
Just
single moms,
we have single moms, we have moms that are married, moms. that are
married
in relationships.
moms.
Yeah.
Any mom that just needs a little help or maybe would like to further her education or better herself. And you're networking, right? I mean, you bring all these moms together and collaborate, and then you're also bringing outside resources, not to put you on the spot too much, but who are some of your outside resources that have been contributing to the program?
Our largest one is the Evansville Christian Life Center. We deal with Stephen Rao, who has really just been, I worked with him years ago with the Even Start program with EBSC, and he started he didn't create it, but he started the GAIN Initiative program in the communities, and now he's in 7 different counties. So they're kind of our biggest partnership. He's with us every Tuesday. And as we've changed some things due to the mom's needs, he'll continue with us in the spring also on those Tuesdays. And so that's our biggest one. But this spring we'll be having people like Albion Fellow Bacon Center coming in, speaking with our moms about relationships, how to distinguish domestic violence, building blocks. They'll be coming in and speaking on disciplining with your children, age appropriate things that your kiddos are going through. So they'll be working with us in the spring, but another set of partnerships that we have is like Purdue Extension, Look One, Look Free, which they really love. That was in regards to like mental health. We spoke on anxiety, depression, those things. So we just have just a various amount of partnerships that we bring in, and it's really to educate the moms because they don't know. So that's what we want to do. It's amazing how they've been able to build their confidence in the program and doing things that, like our mom that just got her very first apartment. I mean, she's so proud of herself and she's really pushed herself. But what I see with her too is she's really grabbed onto the resources that we've offered in the class, and she's just ran with them. And you have those. I mean, we have those ladies in our class that are just like, they're ready. They're just ready to go. They just need and the education on how to get connected with resources. So many of them don't know what's out here in the community. So really getting them plugged in.
And where do they find you? They're gonna find you at your new location at the hub. Okay.
Yes, and we're gonna be doing some changes coming the first of the year. You'll see some changes that we'll be making an announcement with come January, probably the first week of January. And it's exciting. I mean, it's, like I said, the program is needed here in this county. I feel like it's needed in every county. I mean, if we can help our moms, it's gonna help our kids, it's gonna help our community. It's just a trickling effect. So.
For those that don't know, the hub's located there kind of northwest corner of the courthouse square. And there's other offices in there, other groups in there.
We're hoping to find a permanent location eventually, like.
And what if you have someone who wants to donate a little money? I mean, the commissioners, we've been supportive of you, but we're not looking to toot our own horn here. We're trying to help get the word out about your program to help these mothers. Where do they take the money? How much can it can they give you $20? Can they give you $100? What do you need?
We'll take anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we just started, we just got situated last fall. So we're really new, we're really fresh, and
You're a not-for-profit, right?
Not-for-profit, yeah.
So they could probably use that as a write-off somewhere. And
Rachel Adamson is our treasurer, and you can find her at Spring Valley Bank in Princeton. I kind of just refer everyone to her. If there's any type of donation or any type of anything to do with the money, I let Rachel handle, so she takes care of all that. And you can follow us on Facebook just for Dixon County. And yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways to get in touch with me or get a hold of me. But yeah, that's where we're at. We're growing and we're moving. We just need the funding behind us to get what we need to get. And
every dollar they donate goes to Gibson County people. helping
Yes.
Gibson County mothers. We're not sending it down to Vanderburgh or Posey, which I'm sure they have great mothers too. We know they do.
Our
But
hub-
these are all Gibson County folks. These are your
Yes.
neighbors you're helping.
Yes, and our hub will be here. Yes, eventually in our 3-year plan, when I gave that out to you guys, yes, eventually we would like to get to another towns with the program. But we will have classrooms set up here for Gibson County, we'll have classrooms set up in different counties as we grow and spread. And with the Safe Haven, that will be something that as a board we will discuss too, but I mean, I'm not gonna turn away somebody that's not from Gibson County that's at that shelter. If they happen to be an Illinois resident, if they need help and they need services, then we will serve them. So with that, but from talking with the director out there, and it's not a partnership that we've established yet, we're in the hopes of doing that. But with that partnership, from what I've heard with the director, a lot of mothers that are involved in that shelter are Gibson County residents. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Keep up the good work.
appreciate it.
All right, let's get Peabody Coal. Ed, you're up next.
I'm Ed Hartford with Peabody. Over the summer, we talked to Brant and Ken about a new drop that supplied the Francisco Underground Mine. And proposed route is to go up County Road 450 north or east, go north up to County Road 50 north, and then head back to the west. And I don't think there were any objections to that route. I've got the agreement, I've sent the agreement out. The new agreement is set up to your newer bond rate, okay? So, that's pretty much it. You know, it's set up to your new bond rate.
I'm gonna make the motion. We let them
Well, I
put that
think
dust
so.
over with that.
I think so. They've met our increase on the bond rate and we appreciate you working with us on that. We just want to make sure that that road can be fully repaired if need be. So we appreciate you.
Well, and those trucks, I mean, they are not overload trucks.
Yeah,
Yeah, that agreement that you should have, it is at your new bond rate, higher rate.
And the commissioners, for anyone in attendance who might be interested, we went from $100,000 to $200,000 on that project. And thought that that better met the current market price for roads, so. You made a motion, I'll
Yes.
second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
all right,
Aye.
Okay, so
Ed.
And I guess that once it's signed, I'll get the bond, and you'll be dropped off at Judy or.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
With the holiday and everything, it's probably gonna be.
Oh, I know.
All right.
Let's try.
Let's go back.
Sure they heard the roll out.
Just go back to Ed.
All right, so like I said, once I get it, I'll just get with Judy.
Say it's fine.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Rick? Brought the whole world.
Try a little backup tonight. Sorry to you all, we were with you all last meeting via video, but we wanted you all to be able to see the faces of the men and gentlemen of the company that will be taking what we've been working on for years, it seems like, to the finish line next year in construction. So we got Zach will be making a little presentation and again with Signal. Chris is with the Revon. He's been with us a few times. And then we've got Billy will be the gentleman that you'll see We had a good meeting yesterday, going around the facility and met with the highway superintendent, just so that they could see names, faces, exchange some numbers, in case there's some phone calls that need to be made down the road to construction. And then also we got the little guy here, Mark is gonna be in and out as well. So we've got all the states represented just about, but Signal will be taking our project all the way through construction, and Matt, or excuse me, Zach and Chris will be doing the rest of the presentation.
All right, thanks, Rick. Commission, JT, County Attorney, Zach Essig with Signal Energy here. Represents Gibson Solar, the civil engineer on the project. We had a pretty fun day out here so far today, and we have a short presentation with some high points. And as we mentioned, Chris will jump into, he's with Aravon, of course, so we have some introductions that Rick did so kindly for us. We're gonna go over the county approvals that have already occurred, some project overview, just the high points of what we're bringing to the community, and map just to illustrate, obviously, what you think the city map would illustrate. Schedule, we have a schedule that is relatively fast paced, gets us up and running in early 2024. And then the compliance that we are working with to get permitting, and then of course, open for questions and comments. So first of all, Gibson County approvals. So we have with another firm, Westwood, I have in parentheses there, but we have a solar permit we're going for. And there already has been a preliminary drainage plan approved. And we have started conversations with Lyle over at 3i Design. He's been good so far. We were able to meet with him last Friday, and he's reached out to you guys to coordinate what was approved, which is that preliminary drainage plan, and how that helps us catapult into the next phase of design and approval. And then the road use agreement, always important. That is in the works and will be finalized in time for mobilization.
Oh, just to be clear on the solar permit, that's the one through the county ordinance that was already approved
In April,
by you all.
in April of this
Yeah,
year.
Yes, exactly.
You've also got the economic development agreement.
And RUA and like stuff that's been kind of ironed out.
Yeah, shortlisted here. The solar permit, right, there's a solar ordinance and a drainage ordinance, stormwater management for of course, it's apply with both of those. That'll be mentioned again a little bit later. Project itself, 200 megawatts. This is a decent sized solar system with about 1,100 acres being utilized to optimize the system in the most efficient way possible on this 1,100 acres. Single access trackers. Vicinity map.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so the single access tracker, so the rows of the modules themselves will face north, they'll run north south, and then they'll track with the sun as the day progresses on, going from east to west. So your two options really that you'll see in the industry are single access trackers, which is what I just described, and then fixed tilt, just kind of the opposite, where the rows run east-west and they permanently are tilted towards the south. By going with single access trackers, you're able to optimize the capture of sunlight throughout the day a little bit more efficiently, so.
Speaking of the tracking system on these, one of the questions I had early on, and appreciate I got a response on that, but was the use of lubricants or oils or petroleum resources in the tracking system for lubrication purposes. Do the tracking systems emit, or do they in any way contaminate the ground with any kind of oil or petroleum-based product? Now here in Gibson County, we're used to farming in the farming industry, right? And some of our old tractors, well, they may seep a little oil here and there, but no harm, right? I mean, no harm. But my question is do the mechanisms here leak or emit any kind of oil or petroleum substance?
Now, the only thing that would have any sort of oil or petroleum substance would be the inverters, which solar produces electricity DC, but the outlets in your wall and everything that's running into your homes and businesses, and this building that we're in here is AC, alternating current. So those inverters, the panels feed into them and it converts that electricity from DC to AC, so we all can use it. That has some heating oil that's in the actual units themselves. but the containers that they come in, they actually have retention mechanisms in it, so where even if there is a leak, it's maintained within that, and that's the amount of oil that is in each of those is pretty de minimis. It's about the same as what you would have in a vehicle, is my understanding.
So the mechanical part of these tracking systems it's all encapsulated, it's all enclosed.
Yeah, it uses torque tubing, that's what I is actually using the mechanism to make it track with the sun and rotate over time, so.
Is that at one location, the inverters, are they at one location or are there multiple?
There are multiple inverters.
And that is of course part of the permitting process in the state is we have all that, encapsulation, whatever it might be on each solar field, we comply with the regulations we have to make sure that containment of potential contamination is already accounted for the life of the project during construction and during production.
So in regards to petroleum-based contaminants, we would see a reduced amount or a less amount, if you will, of petroleum-based exposure. The soil will see a reduced amount versus.
Just to be clear, there's not gonna be any sort of contaminants that's on site, like there's no
Sure.
MSDS sheet that's required.
Versus
or anything
traditional
like that.
farming, versus
Correct.
traditional farming.
It's for, as far as like oil that you would see on a piece of property versus, for solar production versus having a tractor driving or a combine going over it substantially less.
To give you an idea what makes the tracker actually track is the solar energy itself. So it's not moved or rotated with any kind of fuel or generator,
It's electric.
It's strictly off of solar power.
So it's self-sustaining, and that's that torque
Interesting.
tubing that I was talking about. That's what's actually the mechanism that's rotating it throughout the day itself. So it's not like there's a diesel motor or anything like that that's forcing it to move throughout the day.
Sure. Interesting. I kind of visualize like a worm gear or something in there, that everything's turning on. And essentially there is some rotation, right? I mean, there has to be with all this, but what you're telling me is, I think, reassuring. You're saying that there's very little petroleum-based exposure to the ground, if any at all, essentially.
Yep, that's correct, because the inverters actually have containment methods within it itself. So if there is some sort of leak, it's actually contained in that skid itself. So I'm gonna go to the map. So we threw together this vicinity map here to kind of clarify, because there were some questions based off of what was last time. And there was some confusion around it. This is showing the parcels that we submitted through the county solar permitting ordinance that was approved already. And we've kind of color coded it for you for ease of use here. So the green, which is the northernmost parcel that you see there, that is where the switch yard that is going to be owned by Duke is going to be located. Everything else for the project is going to be located further south. And then we have it kind of color coded between blue and red. And apologize if there's anyone colorblinded and think about that. We should have probably used some hashing or something like that. But the parcels that you see in red here are what we know for a fact we're gonna have modules on, and inverters and fencing and access roads and things like that. And has been optimized already. Everything in blue, we're looking to further optimize and see the potential use there. But once again, all of this is in compliance with the solar ordinance and the code that, once again, has already been approved. We're just looking at reducing our footprint even further. Back when we actually came to you all for the permit approval, we had 1,600 acres under lease. And as discussed, or what you just saw on the previous slide, we're down to about 1,100 acres in our footprint, which is well below 1% of the total tillable land in the county itself. 1,600 was well below that. And so we're constantly looking to see how we can minimize our footprint and minimize our disturbance of the land here. So hopefully that'll clear up kind of what was shown, because what was shown in the previous meeting back in December 5th was a recycling of what's called a setback map, which we layer on stuff like setbacks that are required from the local ordinance, from wetlands, from environmental areas, everything like that we want to make sure we're not interfering with or encroaching upon in any way, shape, or form. That wasn't meant to show anything scary or anything like that. So this hopefully will clear that up. And all of that is under lease option, with the exception of the green, that's a purchase option.
Is that you guys on there? Gibson Solar, is that your connection? You don't have anybody participating remotely?
No, we're just connecting in.
Yeah,
right? That's the
because
best way
we
can
couldn't
find
get
it,
a
unlike
flashlight,
Google Live
correct.
and all that. Yeah.
Yep,
Question.
sure.
What
What's the setbacks for resident?
Yeah, so if there's the Gibson County Solar Ordinance, I believe it's 150 feet from from occupied dwellings of non-participating landowners. But I think in our design, we're 200 or even further than that, so, excuse me?
I've got a letter here from you that was 300 feet.
Or 300 feet,
300
yeah,
feet.
so that, all of our design is in compliance with the ordinance itself, and we've actually imposed stricter guidelines on it. And that's Zach and his team here, the Signal folks, we're going through our refined engineering drawing, and how that process works is Signal will design the project in accordance with the footprint and the ordinance that we've already permitted under. They send it to us for review. It goes through intense scrutiny by our team and our engineers. If there's anything that we see that is in violation of that ordinance or our own guidelines that we have for stuff like wetlands and things like that, we send it back to them to refine, and that process will go forward and prior to going to construction, that'll happen several times to make sure that, you know, everything is kosher on that and in full compliance with not only local law, state law, and federal law as well.
So what is it? Is it two? You said 100, then you said 200.
No, the 150 is the county setback, right? So by law, that's what we have to add. Some of our good neighbor agreements and stuff like that, we've negotiated with folks, and they've said, you know, can you please set, and this happened back in, would have been 21 or 22, saying, okay, well, I'm fine with it, but at this stage, can you go a little bit further back? So we've worked with individuals on that front.
On this particular project or one somewhere else, you would work with your.
For Gibson, correct,
For this.
correct, yes, sir.
To clarify, that's from Zoo's front of his house, right?
Right.
Zoo-
That's from the closest corner to the actual house itself.
Yeah, like
It's an
these two-
occupied dwelling. That
These
doesn't.
two fellas live on 350,
Right.
Okay.
and they, across the road from them
Mhm.
is the solar. So from Zoo, if he took according to that 300 feet.
Right.
From the front of his house,
Mhm.
went through his yard, across the road, you're saying 300 feet from him, so.
Solar panels can't be closer than 150 per the ordinance, and if we have a side letter agreement that says 300, then that's what we have to be by.
But it has nothing to do with property lines, it's dwelling.
It's
Oh.
correct, it's the dwelling itself, but then there's also a setback from non-participating property lines too. So it's not like if there's if there's just a parcel that's strictly being used for agriculture, that there's no property, we can't build directly up to that property. We have to be set off from that as well, which I think is 25 feet.
Yeah, the solar ordinance is 25 feet.
Correct.
What's your point?
We're still going through that, but it'll be in compliance. It'll be 25 feet or more, correct?
Okay. What about the shading? Okay, let's say he wants to plant trees right up against his property line.
Yep.
You're gonna stop him because it's a shady, because,
Nope, that's fully within his rights. There's nothing that we can do to stop him from doing that.
and then, so you're gonna go with the pedestals, right?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you're just gonna have, each one's gonna have its own little pedestal in the ground.
Not each panel. So how the actual system itself works is we drive piles similar to how you would build like a pier. We use gravity driven piles down into the ground. Usually they go 10 to 12 feet. And then they're spaced out, and then you have a racking system that goes on top of that spans from pile to
Yeah,
pile.
you're saying this is
And the
gonna
models.
be spinning around like this, so if you got.
No, it's not. So you have, for sake
So
of.
it's just gonna go this way.
It'll just rotate and it's slowly, it tracks with the sunlight.
Right.
So the sun doesn't shoot across the sky really
Right.
fast. It moves, you know,
Okay.
millimeters per second, and so, or even less than that, right? So as the sun tracks across the sky, it just maintains the same plane with
Because
that.
I'm just wondering, because when you get done with this, they wanna take this out and refarm that ground.
Yep, still can.
And, you know, so, but I know for a fact, and I've talked to the farmer, I'm not gonna mention no names, but I talked to him and he said, you more or less gave him no choice. No choice on his ground, and he owned it. And he said he didn't have no chance, because you was gonna run the utilities through his property and everything, and he didn't have no choice, but he had to go ahead and let it happen. And he couldn't.
We're a privately owned company. We can't claim eminent domain, so all of our leases that we have, options, easements, and purchase options are all voluntary. And if we had the opportunity to say, one, we would never do it, but let's say the company could wave a magic wand and pick any piece of property that we wanted, it would be a perfect square. It wouldn't look like this. Because that's how you would engineer and optimize, right?
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, ideally,
Electricity, you know, they can do it. You
Yeah,
know,
because
they did a lot of
they're publicly owned, or they're an IOU, investor owned utility. And so Indiana state law regulates them differently than what we do.
Okay.
So we are a privately owned company, and NIPSCO, who's the ultimate owner of this project at the end of it, they don't take ownership of it until it's completed. And so the whole development cycle, construction cycle, we are held basically responsible for and regulated in a way as any other private company. So if you wanted to go and build a Kmart out there, and you would have to follow the local zoning ordinance and all that good stuff, we had to follow the same exact thing and get approvals just like you did.
Randy, a concern that I had early on this too was the potential for 10, 20 years down the road, there being disconnected to the power grid, the energy grid, and becoming a reliable source for the energy grid. And therefore maybe even not just a reliable source, but a required source. So my concern was, how could this look, 20, 30 years down the road in regards to them wanting to expand it? And so one of the understandings, one of the agreements we received from Tenaska, now involving Erebon, is that in the future, should there be a need for expansion, they would have to negotiate just the same way they're negotiating now, and not be able to utilize eminent domain, even if it would fall under the IURC. The IURC oversees the state and, sets the regulations statewide. But I made sure that that was something that we did have in writing and that we had an understanding for that. And I think that's very important because anyone who has an adjoining parcel or adjoining property, what that says is if for someday they want to expand it, they couldn't just come in eminent domain you without it having to go through litigation and some kind of common agreement.
Well, that's all I was after, because it's utility. You hook up to the utility line, that turns it into a whole different area.
Yeah.
But the only thing I'm saying is, I think the county ought to make, instead of that 25-foot setting, just suggested, I think it ought to be 100 foot instead of 25, but that stuff puts off heat.
Yeah, so there's a massive misconception about heat and noise around solar.
I mean, there's no noise, but I mean, there's a hum, because
There's the only equipment that produces any sort of noise or decibel level is the inverters themselves, and then the substations, which innately, because what I was talking about earlier, where it's DC, the longer you run DC cable, you actually have electricity loss. So you want those inverters to be essentially located in the middle of the parcel as possible. So by the time you get to the property boundary or anything like that, you're not able to hear the inverters. The switch yard, because there's transformers and things like that that are associated with it, there's slight sound, but that's nothing out of the ordinary that you would have if you were driving down the street passing a normal switch yard. The switch yard is, just for the record, Darien Green, that will be owned by Duke, but that's right up against the transmission line that the project is interconnecting in. Everything else south of that is owned by the company. And that's done by design as well.
Okay, I just know them. But I mean, I've been around them, and I know them panels, they get hot. I mean, they do produce a little heat, but I mean, you're outside, but I mean.
If you walk up and touch one, there will be, the panel itself will be a warm, right? Because that's the nature of it. It's absorbing sunlight, right?
By the time you get them.
But it's not like they're radiating heat that would do anything that would be detrimental to the health of humans or plants or animals or anything like that. Because one of the biggest kind of hoops or red tapes that we have to go through is environmental permitting on the state and federal level as well. We have to get this permitted through IDEM, the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Army Corps of Engineer, all those good folks. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
No worries. And if you have further questions, I'm happy to hang around and answer. Yeah.
So is there any sort of concrete foundations that go with any of it?
The only thing that would have the concrete foundation, the inverter, and that's really, the soils will dictate that. We've conducted our geotech analysis on that. So they're very shallow. And the inverter, just to kind of give you an idea, what would you say, probably 2 SUVs if you park them side by side, or tailed to the or bumper to bumper for vehicles. that gives you kind of an idea of scale. And those are kind of scattered throughout the site, and so that's the only piece. The modules themselves, as I said earlier on piers, those are gravity driven, so they just use a piece of equipment that slowly pushes it into the ground. Those don't have foundations. Some parts of the country they do because the soils are really loose and it requires that, but fortunately here we don't have that, so.
The only concrete or anything like a foundation wise, you don't really have underneath the inverter in order to obtain compaction. And also to keep any wildlife or anything that way, we'll actually use a slurry mix and a concrete mix underneath that stops any type of erosion, or anything like that. That's the purpose of it. That's the only thing. It would be associated similar to a foundation. That's only strictly under the line of the body line of the inverter.
Your good neighbor policy.
Yep.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so
And the
that would have been.
compensation part of it. also.
Yeah, so that would have been, those would have been sent out in either late 21 or early 22 when we were going through the process of permitting this with the county. They're not obligated to sign those, right? Those are just saying, hey, you're within, I think it was 2 miles or something like that of the project, whatever it was that we talked with the county about making those offers. And essentially what that is saying, okay, we know you're gonna be impacted by the construction cycle of it, because if we're being totally honest, right, it's a construction site. We've been honest about that for the entirety of our permitting the project. But that's a very narrow window of the life of the project, but we do understand there's a visual impact during that time period. And so for that, we offer neighbor agreements for folks that want to be a part of it. But once again, those were offered, they weren't required to sign. So if folks elected not to sign it, that was totally fine. It's up to the individual themselves.
Right. So that's still in effect for now.
Yeah, if you sign them, yep.
If you sign it and send it in.
Yep. And if you got one and decided not to sign it, and
Right.
you wanted to discuss further, happy to talk to you on an individual basis.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
We didn't get one, we live on that road, neither did our family.
They were mailed out, because we sent them certified mail, I'm pretty sure, and that was all, like I said, done years ago.
I can give you afterwards, they'll give you.
Yeah, perfect.
There's 4 of us that never got a letter.
Perfect.
Certified mail.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we sent certified mail. Yeah.
On the. On that. Huh. No, mine just come regular mail. I didn't get certified mail.
Everything was, like I said, we went by the addresses that are all around our project, provided by the post office, and they were all certified, sent out. I sat with many people discussing it. This was a lengthy process we went through over a couple of years, and very few people wanted to even get involved with it. So, yeah. We do have a few, but there was a big majority that want to participate.
Is the Elliott project dead?
So we can talk Elliott after Gibson, if that's okay, and we're happy to talk to you with that one next Thursday. So.
We're gonna have an open house on
Yeah.
January the 24th. It's gonna tentatively scheduled at the senior center in Fort Branch from 5 o'clock to 7 on the 24th of January. Cards will be mailed out just based on the post office within a 2-mile radius of our project. But anybody's here, we're making an announcement, everybody's welcome. But we'll have booths set up, we'll have a panel there, different representatives, to explain more of these, answer more questions, and, to just put a lot of the myth, and answer all the questions.
That's not the same as the Tenderson project.
So, yeah, if we take a step back, right, in the industry, you have folks that are non-long-term owners, right? Where their sole job is they just lease land and they start the permitting process, and then companies like Greenbot come in and buy the land, and they finish the permitting process. They build the project with an EPC partner. 90% of the time, we hold on to the projects long-term. This one is kind of an exception there, due to some supply chain issues and timing and stuff like that with the utility and then needing to have power based off of commitments that they made to the IURC and things like that. So Tenasco's role, was the original kind of founder, and then Revon came in 2018-ish, or sorry, 2019-ish, and bought this project along with a series of others and then finish the development. So you probably are more involved with like Jared Pitts and those folks over at Tenasco for a long period of time.
My question, second part of the question is, the stormwater runoff plan was waived by the commissioners on the Tenesca project?
I don't think it was waived, no.
As a matter of fact, we've had a preliminary stormwater plan submitted and approved. And where we are now is they have been consulting with our engineering firm, 3i Engineering out of Evansville. And we're looking to make sure that they work with them and we collaborate together and get this all taken care of. So that's right now, I think that's the next phase.
And that's what we're
But
gonna be covering.
there has not been a waiver of any kind. Yeah.
What about Tenasca, Elliott? This is my fourth, I think, or fifth company I've heard in the last 3 or 4 years of discussion of solar. So are these companies coming and going?
No.
Is that what's gonna happen when you guys put your stuff in the ground? And then those two companies aren't gonna exist anymore?
No.
And then we're gonna be stuck with this stuff.
No, so what, so the process.
Failed, it sounds like.
No, so let me cover that. So as discussed, what I was just describing there, Tenasca was the original kind of founder of the project. They're the ones that sign up the original landowners and submit interconnection. Then they contract out to, or they don't contract, they sell to folks like Arribon. Arribon comes in and finishes the permitting, and then Arribon hires folks like Signal. Signal's in no way, shape, or form an owner of the project at all. If Signal goes bankrupt tomorrow, which they won't, but if they did, Arribon still owns the project. It's the only tie that they have there is that they are essentially engineering and constructing the project for us, right? And then Arribon's job in this process is to sell the energy either directly to a utility or a corporate off-taker, right? We own the projects long-term.
That's what we heard Tenasca was supposed to do. They said they already sold the energy long-term.
And we did sell originally to NIPSCO. They were what we signed was considered a PPA, or power purchase agreement. And under that agreement, that framework, it says, okay, Arribon owns the project and we sell the power directly to NIPSCO, right? However, in that process, NIPSCO as a utility has to get approval from the IURC on build-out plans for not only solar, but coal and natural gas and all their other generating facilities. They have to prove to the IURC that they are meeting their demand for their customer bases, right?
Where's Tenasca today?
Tenasca is no longer involved because they finished their portion of it.
Explain the bonding, that'll put his question to ease about.
Yeah, and so, that's what I was gonna get at, right? So once we go in and we build the project, right, we have a decommissioning bond set up day one of construction. And that bond and decommissioning plan is in place to where if anything happens to any owner of the company or anyone that's involved with it, there's funds available and a plan set in place that the county can then seize upon and hire a third-party engineering firm, say, here's the plan, here's the money, go take care of it. Right?
I've sat in these meetings before, 15 years ago, listening to the same companies, Black Beauty, Peabody, yada, yada, coal companies changing names so they get out of their bond.
Yeah, so
I've seen it.
So
I've sat here
the way,
and seen it happen.
the way that the bond is set up, it's actually tied to the permit itself. So if, let's say, or Gibson Solar goes away, the LLC changes, in order for that permit to get assigned over to that new entity, the bond has to go with it. They're tied hand in hand, so you can't do that. Now, it's something as far as how the coal industry operates, that's totally different. They're regulated in a different way. Solar is one of the most tightly constrained from a permitting process from any other form of energy that you can get at. As I stated, we're not only going through local permit here with the county, we're going through state, we're going through federal. We have to get sign off from the FAA, we have to get sign off from every agency under the sun, every acronym that you can think of to go through this. So every I is dotted and T is crossed to not only protect the county, but you as landowners as individuals, as well as the land that the ground is sitting on.
This is subsidized by the federal government.
There's tax incentives for it, if they choose to do that, NIPSCO, if they wanted to go down that route. They still haven't decided to do that. They can rate base it to their customers at the end of the day, so it depends on them. Oil and gas and coal get tax subsidies as well, they're just not talking about.
I'm a property owner, pretty substantial property owner, down in Prison Creek, floodplain. And how does your, good neighbor, thought affect me? How can I be assured that your, project feed the water up and flood me worse?
Yeah, so one, we're not building in any county or federal regulated floodway. And two, we have to enter into a SWIP, stormwater pollution prevention plan, as well as a NIPDES, which is a discharge permit process. To make sure that we're not making any sort of or exacerbating any sort of existing flooding issues that are there. We've done an extensive number of studies on there. We have to obtain those permits at the state and federal level as well, and then we're also going through a county drainage approval here locally as well. So that's where the insurance comes from. Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, I'm one that's kind of colorblind. I can't really read your map. But my question is, are any of those where you're planning on putting the solar panels within the 2-mile buffer zone in the city?
No, so the 2-mile buffer zone is above the green parcel there. Originally, we had modules up there and land leased for the project, but then we went through the zoning through the township of Princeton for that extraterritorial boundary, did not receive that approval, and so we had to pull back out of those properties. Yeah. Yes, sir.
How did you choose those particular locations? Is it because of where the transmission lines are, or?
Correct. So there's a vast number of things that go into development and that we discussed, I think, during the permanent approval process with the county here, which its location and proximity to the transmission line is one of the biggest, as well as, what has popped up during the environmental studies during, the 3 or 4 year development period that we've been doing that. So they look at wetland, they look at wildlife, they look at floodways, both on the state level and on the federal level as well. So it's a vast number of things that go into that. And then on top of that, once all those clear, then we have to get private agreements in place as well. So the landowners there had to be willing to work with us also. And I know the point of this meeting was to talk about a state level and county level building code. It has nothing to do with setback variances or anything like that. Everything that was permitted during the 2021 and 2022 cycle was still fully in compliance with that. This is a electrical and civil code as well, which was the point of this meeting. If you guys just have general questions on solar or anything like that, I want to be cognizant of everyone's time here. I'm happy to stay after as long as you guys want. I'll answer all of your questions here tonight. More than happy to do that. But if we can turn our attention back to this and get through this, and then we'll open up for a Q&A at the end, if that's okay. Sound good? And then also, as Rick mentioned, we're having an open house in January, so that's a good time to come in and take a look. We'll have poster board set up with stations to show different phases of construction, what that looks like. We'll have construction SMEs there, subject matter experts, excuse me, that'll be willing to answer all of your questions there at that time as well.
Yeah. Do you have a number on the amount of acreage on timber removal or tree removal? You got that?
We do have that. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I can look that up and get it to you.
Yeah, you don't have enough idea.
I'm not the engineer on the project now.
There's an eagle over there.
So we've gone through U.S. Fish and Wildlife. The area that this is in does not have an eagle nest within the Gibson County footprint, unless something unless something's popped up post the summertime, which is when we did our bald eagle and nest survey for U.S. Fish and Wildlife, like an item, very possible, right? Birds migrate, move. If that's the case, then we'll take a look at that and coordinate with those agencies as well. But just real quick on the schedule, as you guys can kind of hear, we're in the design phase of the project itself. That was going through the iterations of review and refinement with Arribon and Signal here. The permit package, which Zach here was going to be alluding to, that is for the building permit through the state, through the IDNHS and item here. And that's really what we're here tonight, which is the actual variance of that code itself. And so once again, that's electrical and civil code. It has nothing to do with setbacks or glint and glare or anything like that. And essentially the boilerplate of it, right, layman's terms, is that the state of Indiana has a antiquated code compared to the national code, which is required, right, on the federal level. And then Gibson County has an even older code. And so in consultation with IDNHS and all the other state agencies, basically they're saying, hey, you guys don't have to use this antiquated code. You can build to the newest standards because there's not an occupied building on site. There's no O&M building physically there. So because of that, they're saying that there's no variance necessary there. And so what we're here tonight is to get concurrence with the county that you guys have the same view on that. So that way we're not building to two different codes and they don't conflict each other. Does that make sense? And then as far as the stormwater and general permitting, as Commissioner Fleetwood stated, we're in constant communication with 3I. We had a meeting with them last week. We'll have some more this week and as time moves on there to make sure we're in compliance with our stormwater permit also.
You know, we have, it's winter time, but we do have a freeze and fall road permit, do we not, on the county roads?
Yeah.
So there's a weight limit.
Yep, and so we have a road use agreement in place that was approved through the county permitting process that we went through that in 21 and 22. And so it defines what has to be done. We'll have bonding for the roads there, similar to what
Well, the
Peabody.
bonding went up.
Yeah, so when did that go up, by the way?
I don't have an exact date for you, but, might be something good for you to get your hands on through the highway department.
Sure, and as discussed, we met with the highway department today. We'll continue to coordinate with them throughout that to make sure that we're in compliance with road use agreement, the bonding's appropriate, all that good stuff. There's also gonna be a road survey that's gonna be conducted for pre-construction and post-construction, so that way we can compare and say, hey, this is what happened during your construction period, this is what needs to be replaced. Revon will fund that, repair those roads, everything will be brought up to date. And then the decommissioning bond and everything like that will still remain in place post-construction. Additionally, right, to the off-taker, we have a 2-year warranty with them, so it's not like just because Revon builds it, we're not just going away, right? We have our bond that's gonna be in place. We also have that warranty obligation to make sure that, you know, everything is still functioning properly and running appropriately as well, and everything's in compliant with local, state, and federal codes here too, so. But that's ultimately what we were here for tonight. Sorry to steal the.
You're doing great.
But yeah, so that's the boilerplate, right? We have 3 codes. We have the national code, which is the most up-to-date and recent version. We have what Indiana state law is currently on if there's an occupied building, which there's not. So they're saying use the newest code. And then now we're talking here to you all tonight saying that we would like y'all's blessing and concurrence to use the most updated code as well. So everything's built to the same standard.
I'll make national uniform, essentially uniform regulations at the national level, which you believe are more stringent than the county level.
That is what is being implemented. So every state basically has the option of going with the latest code or whatever they have currently approved. Majority of the time states will update their building codes on not as regularly as they should, because there's a lot of red tape and paper that they have to jump through. So usually what will happen is if a newer code comes out, any sort of construction project, whether it's a Walmart or a Toyota facility, if they feel like the newer code is more up to date with standards kind of nationally, they will come through and ask for a variance. Majority of the time, if there's some sort of instance like this where our project, there's no occupied building, so they're saying, don't use that old code, use the new one, proceed forward there. And now, like I said, we're here talking to you all tonight to make sure you all are on the same page that the state is.
So you're asking for a variance from the state?
No, so technically a variance isn't required. We're just coming to talk to you all as like hey, this is what the state is saying. Are you guys in agreement with that? It's a variance technically isn't needed per state law because the IDNHS is regulating.
That's kind of what I was thinking. We really don't need a variance.
That's correct. It's more of us just on a transparency level saying like, you guys have an old antiquated code. This is the newest, latest and greatest that's being implemented nationally. this is what we're going with. Are you guys on the same page before we move forward with the design from an electrical and civil standpoint to make sure that it's in compliance with that code?
I'd probably need to take a look at it before you.
Yeah, and we'll definitely send over the codes and the variations between the two. That's perfectly fine.
I don't see.
You don't know.
If there's a state code, I don't see where we would be obligated to take action on it because the state
Because
code.
your local ordinances references an old code from like 2008. Is it?
Correct.
So
It
it's pretty
incorporates
outdated,
the state,
yes.
it incorporates the state law. The
Oh,
local
no.
ordinance incorporates the
Okay.
state regulations and all
State
likelihood.
supersedes local in the event that it is more rigorous or.
Okay.
And we always just make sure that the jurisdiction is all aligned, so that we aren't gonna be caught up later and partial design is done, and we have to somehow address an old code, but state completely okay with it because the current code exempts this facility, and as long as you guys are in concurrence, we'd like that to obviously that be the result. It's no variance, it's just that you accept the decision or the understanding that it's exempt and therefore fall in line with the state.
Underneath that Department of Homeland Security.
Yep.
IHS. Yes.
I would recommend that we take no action on the matter, one way or the other. I would recommend that we don't take a side or a position.
And then for IDHS guidance.
Go by that guideline.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying at this time, we would not take any action. And should that be the case, as you're mentioning, and I'm sure it is, then that would be the precedent.
Yeah, and that's fine. And we'll share any sort of correspondence that we have with IDHS with you all as well. Just to make sure, like I said, this is more of just a transparency. As Mr. Spindler alluded to, the ordinance defers to the state, but because we're entering into here something that, you know, is a long-term project, 30, 50 years, whatever it is, you know, then obviously we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page prior to the board, and you guys have all the latest and greatest info.
My thinking is if it's the state law, then we have to adhere to the state law.
Yeah.
And especially in the case where it might supersede local enforcement or local governance.
Yep.
I don't see a problem with it.
Okay.
I mean.
That's suitable to you
strictly
guys, no
together.
action.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, like I said, this was more so just a transparency thing. We weren't looking for a variance
Appreciate that.
or anything there. It's just more so keeping everyone updated, so.
Okay, for the record, you will have, on January 24th, your public hearing, you'll have a.
It's not public hearing, it's just an open house.
Open house.
Yep.
Okay, will you have a copy of the stormwater management ordinance or at least a draft version of it on, there that day?
We should have what's already been, the draft that's already been
Okay, the
approved.
draft
And
version.
then I can't tell you how fast or slow I3 is gonna move, but we're actively working through that. So if there's been a change, we can have that ready.
You'll have it there for some people to review.
Yeah.
To look at.
Yeah, it's just for future reference, it's gonna be pretty technical, right? It's, I read them.
Once already, I brought it several times to these meetings.
Well, that's the ordinance.
Well, that has a lot
Yeah,
of
a
stuff.
lot of
in it.
split measures and stuff like
Several
that.
times.
Yeah.
Where's it gonna be, Rick? At the senior center in Fort Branch. Excuse me?
Safe for me to see.
5 to 7, there's no seat, it's just.
Yeah, so
walk through.
it's gonna be kind of like a walk.
Walk and talk to people and then as long as.
It's
those 2
for
hours.
the community to come out, ask questions, see photos of what construction's gonna look like. Like I said, talk to folks like Billy and Revon's internal construction experts and engineers, and myself will be there. Just to really answer questions and get folks ready for what's coming down the road.
No, that's the gist of it, that now we have at least a reaction that the code that the IDHS allowing us to use, which is the most current, is applicable, and we can move forward with that without concerns that this local jurisdiction is going to hang up for any reason the code that's being applied to the array and substation in Switchyard. That's it. So it's gonna cover what we had already talked about. Advancement is happening, and now we can move at an even faster pace. And that's when we kind of went through this as well. Q&A.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the next agenda item unless you guys are done. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Down to him.
All right.
Bids.
Okay, the next agenda item is the rock bid opening, and I've got two here. Both from Mulzer Crushed Stone out of Tell City. Bidding against themselves.
That's probably two different type of stone.
This one is labeled as item 2024-3 stone, excuse me, everybody quiet down. Stone, 150,000 ton or less. Bid amount is $5,000. Let me check. Number two.
Oh. I wouldn't think so. I mean, that's just each stone. I mean, the 85s, 53s.
Is that even a meaningful bid amount? 5,000, I guess it is.
Yes.
So bid amount $5,000, $5,000 even on the other one, which is again is from Mulzer as well. It's on item 2024-02 sand and gravel, 5,000 ton or less.
I have the two there.
Yes.
That's the only one of these we've got.
Okay. Okay. Bid amount is pea gravel $17.20. I'm assuming that's what per
That's per ton.
ton. What's A versus B?
Huh?
What would be the B column?
I have no idea.
Delivered?
Huh?
Probably delivered.
Probably,
Bid A
yeah.
shall show ton load
Yeah.
into Gibbs County trucks at bidder stockyard, and B shall show price per ton delivered. That's exactly right.
Yeah, so $27.80 delivered. Road gravel, $18.10 per ton. We pick up $37 delivered. Road gravel course, no bid. Fill sand, $12.40. We pick up $23 delivered. So I'd recommend, since there was only one vendor, that you accept.
Make that motion to accept it.
I'll second.
On favor. Aye.
Aye.
This is a bid as well for a different project.
That's fuel bid.
But this is, yeah, you just have that. Fuel bid is from Wabash Valley. My Cooperative, My Future out of Grayville, Illinois.
I can use my stamp.
Looks like total price for 87 octane is $2.63.8. 89 octane is $2.94.1. Diesel premium plus on road $3.54.2 cents, and Diesel X Gold off road $2.95.7. Since it is the only bid on that, I would recommend that at this evening's meeting.
Make that motion to approve it.
There's a motion. Is there a second? On second to the
I'll
motion.
second.
There's a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it. Thank you.
Well, I don't see Julie here tonight.
I talked with Julie. We are still working on why she was going to come to this evening's meeting. There was a change in legislation that took effect earlier this year pertaining to the appointees on the health department board. And so we're going to evaluate who's on there right now and how that is in compliance with the newly adopted law that went into effect earlier this year. So it'll be back on the agenda probably sometime in January.
Sharon.
Sharon Murray with the Animal Services. I have a two-part request this evening. It says request for TIF money. It's actually a request to allow me to request TIF money. Again, the Animal Services building, we've got ARPA money, some private money. We're gonna need some more money. I understand there's a little bit of money left. Since this is town building, we would just like to for that potential option to see if we can qualify or if there's any way that we could have a little bit of that. So that's my first request.
And what is your ask for us to approve,
Well,
take to the redevelopment commission?
okay, we're gonna ask for 500,000.
Sure. And there may be some ARPA money still, which is, income that we could potentially use for this project. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see how that all plays out. But I have no problem with her going to the redevelopment commission and bringing this to their attention as a county need. So do we need to put that to a motion or?
Yes, please.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And my second request is just don't really have it developed very well yet, but as Stephanie Kennedy, once this building has been renovated and turned into the prosecutor's new office space, Stephanie McKinney is looking for a place for her office and supplies and events. So we kind of brainstormed and thought possibly, since we haven't moved an inch of dirt yet on our building for the Animal Services, possibly that we could incorporate space for Stephanie out at the new Animal Services building. And again, it's very premature. If you, as the commissioners, don't want us to even explore any of that, that's fine. We just thought that was a way maybe she could bring in some, she has access to some state money. We hopefully will get access to some money and we could put it together and have one location.
I don't see a problem with that whatsoever.
Well, one thing I would like for us to look at before we say yay or nay either way, and I'm not really for it or against it, but in consulting with some other counties, they have positioned their EMAs close to the 911 and the dispatchers and some of the other emergency personnel. And so if it doesn't set you back too much, I'd like for us to have some time to review that part of the request. And just
Well,
see.
I'll tell you the reason she wanted to move out the highway department, build on out there, because all their trailers, every equipment they've got is out there at the highway department.
A lot of their equipment out there.
That's where all their equipment's at.
And it may make perfectly good sense. Guess I'm just not prepared to
And I'm not
say
looking
yes or
for a
no
yes
either
or
way.
no.
We just want to look at it, they're not gonna.
Certainly will,
I'm very
explore
agreeable to that,
But
yes.
we didn't want to go down that road if you didn't want us to
Yeah.
at least explore it. I
Yeah.
know there's lots of other stakeholders.
I mean, they've
that
got
would be
several
involved.
trailers out there, plus all the other equipment's out there, so.
That's fine, and obviously before we do anything or get very deep in it, so.
It may be a good fit logistically speaking. It may be a good fit. I just,
Sure,
we're still trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together, so.
a lot of moving.
Is that understandable?
Yes, I totally understand, okay, no commitments, but it's okay.
Let's look into it. Let's explore it. Yes, it might be a good fit.
That's all we were wanting, so. I don't have anything else. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you. President Montgomery, before you move to the next agenda item, can I get a motion to approve the sheriff's contract with the ambulance service? It's already been signed, but there was not a vote on that.
Yes.
I have a motion to that effect?
So move.
And a second? A motion and a second on the floor. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Looks like Mike Watkins is next.
All I need is approval from the commissioners in our switching of our new financial software and then through our state audit. There has been a balance that the treasurer's been carrying of $16,359.51. that has been from years ago. It's been carried and carried for years. Checks not being cashed on the payroll, and payroll tax calculations that may have been slightly different. And like I say, this has been many years ago and it's just been carried. So we need to zero that out. And I would like permission to transfer it into the general fund so that we can zero that account out and have the books balance out.
Well, I'll make that motion, even though I don't want to see the county council put their hands on it, so.
I'll second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Now then, we have, 2 medical leaves. And, I need a motion to approve those medical leaves.
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. All right.
I got a question. Is road or from 250 to 550 south of Francisco, that's still Gibson County?
Yeah.
The hell don't look like it with the roads out there. I've asked this question, I don't know how many times, I get different answers. Do we have road drags instead of graders?
Yes.
How come that road drag don't come out there and drag those roads?
Oh, but I can
We
find
had
out.
that road when they did. Keith Blow used to drag it and they were fantastic.
Well, Misco did too.
You guys don't even come, you don't come out there, Ken. You don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
I know we got road drags.
Well, okay, that's one thing in your favor. But this, I'm telling you, we need to get those bumps out of the road. Some of these guys here probably know what I'm talking about in their area too. But out there, I don't know why we have to pay taxes. Now, another thing I want to know, is there any money in the funds to clean up dilapidated buildings?
That I know of.
You know, we ain't Warren.
Well, I tell you what, it's kind of ironic that you'd bring it up because in our last ARPA meeting, that was one of the items that we were considering prior to, pretty much all the money going to the health department. We looked at the possibility, and it's still on the table, of dedicating some funds to the demo of dilapidated properties. Now, how you do that, I've looked at different counties and how they've orchestrated it, and you can do it 101 different ways. But one way might be to put a little contingency upon it or some kind of a requirement to where, for instance, it's money available should you be agreeable contractually to build a new home on that property. Let me explain a little further. So if we were to allot some monies to, if you will, raising buildings in our county, we could set aside 100,000, for instance, and say, let's just say, I don't know, $10,000 per parcel. But we could also set up some restraints upon that or some requirements to where the persons would have to be agreeable, the parties would have to be agreeable to build a new structure on that property. Now, another part of that, I hate to make this too long, but it requires a little planning, of course, and thought, but another thought is, how do you divvy that up and make that diverse enough to where all parts of the county can apply for it, right?
What I'm talking about, the building, I'm talking buildings that I'm talking about were condemned by Bill Tooley probably 3 years ago. He said the county just didn't have money to follow up on. Is it county road 450 and 675 on that corner? They've all fallen in, there's trees growing up that big around and coming up through the building.
But to me, it ought to be the landowner.
What?
It ought to be the landowner, Walden. I know what you're talking about.
You did.
I know it did.
450 and what'd you say there? 450 and what?
675.
675.
I returned, come back to my house.
Pretty bad shape.
Oh,
Yeah, they are. They've been that way for, God, I don't know how long.
They've been condemned. Taxes on him so high that he has to be some. That's what I do. That's the best way to do it.
Well, they're gonna have a grain
I
pit out
like
the
it
road.
hard, but
Well,
Bruce told me
the county
today-
has to do something with that back there, that grain pit is gonna be laying out the road.
The county can't go on somebody's property and just tear their old buildings down.
What kind of, if you throw me in jail, Bruce, what kind of menu you got?
Drastically improved this year.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
We need to get a road drag out there for sure. Probably a lot of the roads in the county.
Oh, yeah.
And got the funds for.
Sure.
that big building.
As of now, there aren't any grants or funds available, but that is something that has come up in our ARPA meetings, is to set aside some funds. Don't know where we'll take it. I don't know where it's gonna go, but it is in the talks. There has been some talk about setting
You still
aside.
gotta get permission to do that.
Yes, actually,
Cannot
they would have to
own some of
apply
the
for
property
it.
and tear it up.
They would have to apply for it. You know, an individual would have to apply for it and say, I need help for the demo cost.
That ain't gonna happen.
And it doesn't sound like that's doable here.
And they ain't gonna
So-
have, they don't match to it with Bruce.
Oh, geez. Well, I'm sorry I couldn't help you in that regard. I'm sorry we couldn't help you in that regard. But
Those buildings been that way for 50 years. Anything else? Need a motion to adjourn this thing.
so moved.
All right. Adjourned. We're adjourned.